Well, when I was growing up, my cats were really my best friends. And my dad sometimes was mean to the cats.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might be the reason that I have grown up to be so defensive of animals.
And when you say mean, what would that look like?
Oh, sometimes if the cat would sneak upstairs where my dad didn't want the cats coming upstairs, but we as kids would take them upstairs to cuddle with them when my dad went to work. So the cats didn't know any better. They thought they were allowed to go upstairs. So if he caught them upstairs, he'd throw them over the top
Banister.
Yeah, and they'd land on the hard tile floor, and that was really devastating for me to watch my pet cat being thrown over like that.
Yeah.
And things along those lines that made a big impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. So, what do you do for a living? I know you do all this, and you've been doing a lot of volunteer work, but what do you do for a living?
I work full-time as a real estate agent for Coldwell Banker Island Properties. My educational background was in real estate finance, so I've been doing it since I graduated from college.
And when did you graduate?
That was 1986.
Uh-huh. So have you been active in real estate for the past 22 years, or has it been off and on times, or?
I took a short break where I worked pro bono for some animal organizations, some animal protection organizations. I volunteered for 5 years for a group called Farm Animal Reform Movement. The group is based in Washington, D.C., and for them I was the communications director. So I arranged media interviews and wrote and submitted news releases, and I worked with getting vegetarian celebrities to go on television shows. Celebrities like...
Yeah, who are some of the celebrities that you...
Mary Tyler Moore, Alicia Silverstone, James Cromwell, Ed Asner. Those were some.
These guys...
Casey Kasem.
These guys are vegetarian?
Yes, they're all vegetarian.
So you arranged... Did that mean you contacted them, or their agents, or how did that all work?
Yeah, I had direct relationships with them. So.
Did you? So you had conversations? Did you meet these folks?
Yes, I did. I met all of them in person.
Uh-huh.
So that was fun.
That's fun, yeah.
And then after that, I worked for another farm animal group called Farm Sanctuary. And I did that for a few years.
And what did that group do?
That group has gigantic shelters in Watkins Glen, New York, and then another one in Northern California. And for them, I worked on legislation here in Hawaii, animal protection legislation. We tried to get a bill passed that would have banned the foie gras. We worked on another bill to outlaw gestation crates, which are metal crates that house pregnant pigs. And the crates are so small and so narrow that the pigs can't even turn around. And they spend 24 hours a day in these contraptions. And some states and communities have outlawed them. So we tried to get them outlawed here in Hawaii. And same with veal crates.
Right, and have you had luck with that? How's that working?
It was very difficult because the industry has such a strong lobby and has so much more money than the animal protection agencies do.
When you say the industry, you don't just mean Hawaii, you mean the beef industry in the country.
Yes, yes. When the veal industry, the national veal industry, got wind that we were working on this, they stepped in and did everything in their power to stop it.
Oh my goodness.
So it was really an uphill battle.
Well, this is a woman here who puts her money where her mouth is. As she just said, she's been involved in real estate for over 20 years. You donate 20% of your real estate commission to
the animal protection organization of my client's choice. My client can select any animal organization anywhere in the world, and I'll donate 20% of my commission to that group.
this is automatic and consistent. So anyone who buys real estate, I mean, you know, one of these Wailea homes and the $10,000 commission or whatever it might be, 2,000 of that right off the top would be to.
That's right.
Yes. That's something. That's really putting your money where your mouth is.
And on my website, MauiResidences.com, I have a list of some organizations that I'd recommend.
I see. So that can help. That can help guide people in,
Yes.
in how they donate their money.
But it's their choice.
But it's their choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something that's very near and dear to your heart. You have an animal sanctuary at your home in Haiku.
Yes, Leilani Farm Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Just recently formalized it. For 8 years, I've had farm animals. Goats and donkeys and chickens, all rescued, 13 rescued cats.
What does that mean? How does that translate when you say they've all been rescued? Who's rescuing them? How does that happen?
Well, each one has come from a very bad situation.
So I was just there the other day, and
Yes.
I met some of these creatures. They get so much love at your place. Myself and Adele, my dear partner Adele, we went to visit, and we were just completely taken by how, with all the love that you give these animals, they're just very friendly
They're
to
so
people.
nice,
I mean,
yes.
the animals that I wouldn't normally think would be so friendly. I mean, chickens and birds,
Yes.
and donkeys and goats. I mean, they were just totally.
They're really happy, and I think part of it is the contrast. They can really appreciate the difference, having come from such dire conditions. For example, one goat, Larry, was tied up for 10 years, and he had no other animals. He had never seen another goat. He was just kept tied up 24 hours a day. And when he was brought over to my farm, the man who brought him said, "Let me tell you, you can't touch him. He won't let you touch him. If you want to pet him, you only can with a garden rake."
Oh my goodness.
But that turned out to be completely false. The
So
very next day,
he never got touched, this creature,
No.
except by a garden rake.
That's right. But he warmed up to me very quickly. 2 days later, he was laying his head in my lap. And now he's, the sweetest guy, and just so happy to be around other goats and to not have a tether around his neck. He can run through 8 acres and just have a ball.
So that's what you have, 8 acres?
Yes.
8 acres, and you would actually like to expand it so they can graze more freely.
Yes, part of the 8 acres is not fenced, but it's a wonderful area that would provide great forage for the animals and really lots of trees and grazing opportunities. So one of these days I would love to be able to expand the fencing so that the animals can go into that area.
Well, it's an obvious in a way, but why did you decide to have a sanctuary?
Well, I decided to formalize it. I've always had these animals as my own personal companions, but I decided to formalize it because I saw an opportunity to let other people experience for themselves just what wonderful, loving beings these animals are, and to have an appreciation of what a healing effect they can have on people, and also as an opportunity to provide humane education. We, in the future, may have groups of kids come in so that they can learn about how to treat animals compassionately.
And what can people do to help? I mean, people watching the show have a love for animals. Here's an opportunity. How can people help out?
Well, there are a number of ways. Of course, any contribution goes a long way. We have a lot of hay to feed the donkeys and the goats and veterinary care. So it all adds up with that many animals. But there are other ways too. For example, we would love to just have a simple feed shed near the barn so that we can store the grain and the hay and the other animal supplies in the feed shed. And in addition to that, one of our other dreams is to have a chicken house where we've got the roosting bars and we've got the nesting boxes, but it would be really wonderful if they could be placed in a little house for the chickens so they could go in there in the rain.